I just felt that they just gave a giant middle finger to the whole fan base,
to even themselves for the last movie, because the ending of the movie is that like the more he kills, the stronger he becomes. He becomes more than a man, and the thing at the end of that movie, he kills like 35 townspeople.
Yes.
Meaning that now he should be like the final boss. Like he's now powered up to like his stats are.
We would call him Super Saiyan Killer at this point.
Yeah, he's Super Shredder now.
He's Super Shredder. Yeah,
but in this movie, he's a feeble old man that can't stand up. Which is what he probably should have
eating rats in a sewer.
Yeah.
Oh, goody, goody, here it comes.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show.
You are interested in the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here.
Oh my God, don't stop now!
With your hosts, Brian, John, and Elaine.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show, the madhouse for film freaks and film fans of all types. I'm your host, Brian Coddington, and my fellow co-host and filmmaker, John Woolscroft.
Washing my grandfather.
What? You know, they say, here's the funny thing.
Yeah.
They say that the first 30 seconds of the podcast are some of the most important 30 seconds to get new people. And I have a feeling that we either gained about 5 people or we lost them. Because they're going to be like, why is the guy talking about washing your grandfather? Now I'm going to try to transition that into that's horrifying, just like our content today, which is, oh man, I haven't run a transition out in a while, but yeah, we're going to be talking about some horror today, specifically horror in the past year, because we're in episode 255, and we mentioned last week that this year's year in review is going to be a little bit different, and that's because this past year has been exceptionally strong in the horror realm. Like literally, I don't know if I've ever seen a year. I don't know, maybe like the early 90s is when I can think of that really was strong in this particular genre. Would you agree, John?
Well, I wouldn't just say like strong. I would say monumental, because there were movies out this year that were like tentpole movies that weren't necessarily good, but they were like this year last year we got another Scream movie, we got a Halloween movie. In my opinion, both were terrible, but I mean it was a monumental year for horror, not just because there were so many good ones, but just because there were so many of them, and ones that studios really put a lot of like backing and support into. And I know that a lot of people say like, oh, well, are you guys a horror podcast because we're the Cinema Psycho Show? No, we're just psychos. Like
we are mad for movies.
We're a cinema podcast, but like, so we're not talking about this year in horror movies just because like, oh, you guys a horror podcast. It's because good, bad, or indifferent, what a year it was for the horror genre, usually the forgotten stepchild, of the film community. But monumental year.
Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing. One, Shudder is more than welcome to give us money. Like, we will whore ourselves out for that.
Unspeakably so.
And yes, we will. So like, but at the same time, they've had a lot of really good ones. They've been picking up some really good picks. That's one of the things. The Shudder especially is where I found a good chunk of these. Some of the ones that were buried in here, and we're going to talk about a couple of them today, because I have kind of a pick. I have Brian's picks. I don't know, John, if you had your picks, but
I'm sure I could pull out a couple of them here. But because like I have just listed only just to note how many came out this year, good, bad, or indifferent.
Yeah.
I have, I think 16 horror movies that were noted for one reason or another this year. And I can't remember another year where there were 16 movies that I could be like in the horror genre that I could remember so easily. But
wow. Yeah. So why do you think this year especially was pretty strong.
I-
What do you think is the one thing that we can say this is the reason why this year was strong?
I think I've thought about this for a while. I pondered this.
You've been doing some ponderings.
Yeah, I was skipping some rocks on the river. I was, I took a long bath.
We got a couple rivers, so you got to be specific about which river.
Yeah, I lied in the the Allegheny.
Okay, there you go.
I was lying in the cornfields looking up at the stars till the guy demanded I got off his property. And but I think the reason for this is I think it has to do with the pandemic. I think a lot of horror movies, there's usually when Hollywood's strong, there's only two types of horror movies made. Either it's a franchise, so like another Halloween or another Friday the 13th, or can you make this movie for $2? But this is a popular genre, and because it typically is a very affordable genre, like you're not putting, if you're a studio head, you're not putting much risk into it. That when you don't know what's going to draw people out to the theater, horror is always a good idea, because if you make a horror movie and people don't come out and see it, you maybe only lost so much money as compared to a superhero movie or the next Fast and the Furious movie, where you're putting in $150 to $200 million into it. You look at a movie like Bodies, it's probably made for like $5 to $10 million. You're probably going to recoup those costs. It's a risk they're willing to take, I think, because of the current climate. That's my thing. I think there really is something to that, and I'll tell you why. Basically, all of these movies, at least the ones that I picked, they were produced at the height of the pandemic. Like they were produced right when lockdown was occurring. Movies like Black Phone and Pearl and X specifically, those were produced during the pandemic, when things were on lockdown, when you had crews that were cut, when you had only so many actors could be on set. And I think there's something to the limitation that's enforced on the filmmaker. If the filmmaker's being told, hey, we can only do this, and we don't have all the tools at our disposal, it forces the filmmaker to get creative. And I think that's part of the reason why these movies are good. Maybe they originally were going to have 50 cast members in one scene, but now all of a sudden it's like, I can't do that. I only can have X amount of people. I only can do these sorts of shots now, because maybe for whatever reason you just couldn't. And I think there's something to the limitation. Black Phone especially, I'll pick that one up. It really only has maybe on scene, maybe 2 or 3 people tops in a scene. And, that's one that really is about the introspective nature of being caged up and being, taken by a crazy person, and having a conversation with the ghosts, if you will, of the people that came before you. So a lot of those scenes that were strong were scenes with just 2 people. And I think that's a common thread amongst all of them. What do you think? Yeah, well, and Ethan Hawke wears a mask that was just, I'm sure to fight COVID and not to scare the kids, but
it's a scary mask.
Yeah. It didn't take wrestling long, by the way. There's a guy named Bray Wyatt who wears a mask that looks just like.
You want to know something funny?
Yeah.
I know the person who actually made the mask for both of those people.
Oh,
Jason
cool.
Baker. He actually is a protege of Tom Savini. So I know I got my issues with Tom, but at the same time, he made both of those masks.
Oh, cool.
And he's a Pittsburgh local.
Sweet. Let's get him on the show.
I agree. You should.
But no, I think you're spot on too. Yeah. Cause like not only, building off what I said about, affordability and risk. Yeah. But like what you said though, if you hand somebody a script, like this is called Black Phone, and we're in a pandemic right now, it's like, oh well, typically there's only like 2 people in the scene, and they're the one kid's afraid of the other guy, so they're like more than 6 feet apart usually the entire movie, and they go, oh well, and does it all take place in like one small location that's easy to light? Yeah. Oh, perfect. Then we'll have a bone screw, like yeah. So I imagine that plays a big part into it too. Absolutely.
Definitely. So do we want to jump into some of our picks? Do we want to jump into some notable ones?
Well, let me just go down the calendar here.
Okay.
And I'm not going to comment. I'm just going to do them in order here. Just so this is the year we've had.
Yeah.
So in January we had Scream 5. In February. Yeah. Well, it was on my top 10 worst.
I know, but I know for me, like I saw the trailer for Scream 6 drop today, and I'm just like, oh God, please make it stop.
Ghostface Takes Manhattan.
I mean, you said it, not me, but yeah, you're right.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which yeah, I know you're probably all thinking, didn't that come out in the 70s? Yeah.
No,
yeah.
Well, that was this
Texas,
is Texas.
But that came out in February. X came out in March. Men came out in May. Black Phone in June. Nope came out in July. So did Crimes of the Future. Bodies, Bodies, Bodies came out in August. Barbarian came out in August. Smile came out in September. Pearl came out in September. Don't Worry, Darling came out in September. Terrifier 2 came out in October. Hellraiser came out in October. Halloween Ends came out in October. And The Menu came out in November.
And that's not even talking about some of the indie ones,
right?
That were just really streaming. Like, Sissy was one that I saw. Watcher was a big one that I saw on Shudder. These were all ones that came out in just strictly on streaming, so they weren't even on. The Invitation was another one that came out. So I mean, a lot of really good ones. A lot of really good ones. So I think what I want to do is talk about ones that maybe were like, we thought these were going to be good, and then they were like, like, were there a couple, John, that you were like, I thought going in this was going to be good, and then I was like, this ain't good.
I see it on your picks list here, because we have notes on the
I got
things
notes.
we're using. So I don't mean to.
No, you can pick from mine.
The Black Phone I thought was incredibly disappointing.
You thought it was disappointing. Why?
Well, the thing is, I don't know if I did it to myself, but I watched like the first half of it and I was in love with it, and then something got in my way where I had to like turn it off and do something, and then I watched the second half of it and I was like, to me it just fell apart. It fell apart on itself. I don't even know if I have exact like way to put it into words why it just fell apart for me, but it did.
I see. Here's the thing. I really liked it. Like I went into it not really knowing too much about it. I mean, I'd seen Jason's Facebook posts about making the mask for it and going to the premiere. So I was like, oh, this looks interesting. And then I saw that it was on, I think it's on Peacock. And I saw it. I'm like, I'm going to watch it. And Lauren and I watch it. And you know what it was? I think it was the fact that this particular movie, it wasn't like the goriest thing out there. Like, the concept of it was terrifying. The concept of your kid being stolen by a creepy guy who is, in a mask, who's using, balloons, and like, we always were told like, oh, stay away from the creepy guy in the van. Well, this literally is that movie. Yeah. And it's the concept of, well, what happens if, that occurs to you and you're in the holding cell and you're interacting with the ghosts of the people who didn't survive, that's the concept here. And I love the concept and I was glued to it. I mean, it was one of those things that, I was like, all right, I got it. I'm into it. And the concept of kind of learning from those ghosts to survive was interesting. So I didn't find that it was disappointing. But I can see if you thinking that you're going to get a much more, high-end horror, kind of like in the vein of some of the other ones that we saw, I could see being disappointed on that end.
Another one that I was very let down by was Men.
I didn't see Men. I didn't see it.
I wasn't crazy about it, but the thing, what really helped me was talking to a bunch of women who are cinephiles in my life who basically described it to me as they felt that it was a mansplaining to them.
So can you give me a little, because I haven't seen it, and I mean, I will go and see it, but can you tell me a little bit about Men? What's the plot?
Well, the setup is that a woman watches her husband what she thinks is commit suicide. It could have been an accident. He could have fell, but she sees him commit suicide, and she has to kind of get away from that life, get out of that life, and she goes to like the countryside. So it takes place in Europe. I can't remember. I think it's in Ireland. But and then she goes through very, very bizarre. It's a psychological horror movie, like until the ending. But it's a lot of bizarre interactions with different men in her life, and all the people are played by the same actor.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, because there's like he plays like a little kid at one point, and he plays like a reverend and a guy who rents the place to her. It's all the same actor, and I'm sure there's some theories as to what the director was trying to say there, but yeah, it's just, it really is a mansplaining what mansplaining is,
Yeah. Yeah, that's not cool. Yeah. That's not cool. I could see that being an issue. Yeah, as I said, I haven't had a chance to watch. I know that and a couple other ones were ones that kind of slipped through the cracks. But I think which one that I really I was disappointed by was Hellraiser. Yeah. I mean, and what's funny about this is when we were at Erie Horror Fest, like you and I were sitting in the booth and we were bullshitting, amongst between interviews with celebrities and batch recording, and we had a little bit of downtime. We were talking about Hellraiser, and I think I told you, like, oh yeah, this is gonna be really good. And then I saw it, and I was disappointed.
Well, I didn't hate that's quite a pedestal for you. You do love you some Hellraiser.
I do, and I was disappointed by it. And the funny thing is like I didn't hate it, and it isn't a bad movie. Like I want to get that out of the way. Like the new Hellraiser movie is not bad by any stretch of the imagination. It is actually, if you didn't call it Hellraiser, it'd be pretty good. Like if it didn't have that mythos associated with it, it would be pretty good. But a number of friends who are also like big Hellraiser fans kind of felt the same way about it, and kind of like I felt like I'm glad that I wasn't the only asshole being like, yeah, this isn't that good. So here's my reasons why I was disappointed. And I know I'm probably gonna get some hate because a lot of people have liked it, but I didn't like how they changed how the fucking box works. First of all, John, did you see it?
Yes. Yeah.
So I didn't like how they changed how the box works. That was a big deal for me.
That's fair, but I mean, you got to keep updating things, I guess.
I understand that, but here's the whole problem with that. Okay, the problem is that throughout the entire mythos, it's always been established that the box, and what we're talking about, if you're not a Hellraiser fan, okay, fine, there are some people out there. The whole way that you summon the demons, the Cenobites, Pinhead and his gang of ghouls, is by solving this box, this puzzle box called the Lament Configuration. And it's always been kind of in the back end as part of the main mythos and the main driver of this whole series, that it is desire for pleasure and pain, indivisible. That desire to open it is the key that opens the thing. Instead, what we get with this is kind of the box not giving a fuck who summons it and who gets killed. And it's one of those things that like the box changes shapes, and if you stab someone with the box, then they're finally marked by the demons and the demons will kill them. So it just felt to me like they turned the box into this thing that has a bit more depth into, in essence, a slasher tool, like the equivalency of like Jason's machete.
Yeah.
And I hated that. Like I really, really had a problem with that. The Cenobites, I liked them. But I honestly felt that the movie as a whole, and this kind of led into the Cenobites themselves, was really sterile when it came to sex compared to the other ones.
You wanted some more sticky?
Yeah. Well, here's the reason why. That has always been an undercurrent in these films. There's always been a sexual and sensual element to the Hellraiser series. It's just always been there. Even in the shitty films, it's always been there. I mean, Jesus Christ, the Cenobites literally were inspired by Clive Barker's experiences at New York 1980s BDSM clubs. So, like, to get a Hellraiser movie that is kind of lacking on that front was a little disappointing. And like, I came out of it, I was like, well, it's a hell of a lot better than the direct to video sequels, but just it didn't feel to me like I got everything. I wasn't fulfilled.
It's like this sometimes, like when you're like real drunk and you nut, and it's like, well, no, nutting is better than no nutting, but it was kind of like, that sucked.
But it was one of those things like I watched it when we were at Erie, so I watched it like after, I think it was like one of the days we were there in the evening, and then like I watched it again with Lauren when we got home, and Lauren even was like, yeah, I'm not going to finish the rest of it. So like she had checked out, and I was like, yeah, I know it's not what it should be, but like, you know, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm glad they did it. I'm glad they put some money behind it. I'm glad they weaved in some things like the idea of Leviathan and all that stuff. That was cool, but I still felt that it was missing and lacking a bit of that, sexy time stuff.
60 times. Well,
Yeah.
you know, interestingly, speaking of disappointments, I wasn't disappointed in any of these films because I didn't expect anything out of them.
So if your bar is already pretty low, you're good.
But what I was about to say is like the ones that really disappointed were the franchises.
Yes.
Texas Chainsaw, Scream, Halloween, all were terrible movies.
Oh, I think we have to spend a little bit of time talking about Halloween. I don't want to make the whole episode that, but I think we got to spend a little bit of time talking about that because that one was hyped up to no fucking end, and it was a slap in the face.
It really was. Even the marketing alone, the final confrontation, you know, like it would be like WrestleMania 3, Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant. But like, instead of Hulk Hogan coming out for 90% of the match, he like wrestles like Bastion Booger, you know.
I was gonna say Doink the Clown, but
Doink the Clown,
yeah.
And then Hulk Hogan comes in for the last 30 seconds of the match, and it's like, hey, wait a minute.
or I would say it's almost like, remember back in the Attitude Era Raw days where you know you would get Sunday Night Heat. And then they would have like that marquee match, and then like that main person would come out like 5 seconds, and then go to Raw, and then it's like, oh damn, I got to go to bed now. So like that's what it felt like to me. Like it was a tease for the last 10 minutes, and I'm like, it's like what the fuck did I just watch?
And you know, like if this wasn't I guess what do we call it? The David Gordon Green trilogy.
I'm gonna call it the shit trilogy.
Yeah. But if old Laurie trilogy.
Old Laurie.
If there weren't the other two movies, I don't think I would have hated it as much, but like they did everything by the numbers to a ridiculous extent in the second one to then just go out there out of nowhere for this next movie. Like, you know, I
think it's just being a dick. I've said this before, man. Like I think that some directors get off in this idea of the usurping expectations. You know, that whole idea of everybody's expecting this, but I'm going to be clever and I'm going to give them something else. And I think that works with not franchises.
Right.
That's fine. And there's a movie on here on my list that definitely does that. But the problem is that, as you said, you spent 2 fucking movies building this up. You made Michael Myers into an insane person, more insane than usual. Like, fire doesn't affect him. He has crazy brute strength. He has the ability to like destroy a whole fire department, kill everyone. You know, you also build into this whole weirdo thing of the evil being like, I don't know, a virus.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that whole concept, fine. Let's say that that's going to be the case. But to then on the landing, basically, to fall flat in your face and say, haha, it's actually the Corey Cunningham story. And he's the real killer now because he got infected by the evil.
It's Friday the 13th part 5, you know?
I didn't see that one because I'm not a big Friday the 13th fan, but
how did you not accidentally see all of them? I don't think I ever went out of my way to see all of them, but
I don't know anyone who goes out of their way to. I did watch them, but I think I got to like 3 or 4, and I'm just like, I'm not into this.
That's all you need. Yeah.
But yeah, like I just felt that they just gave a giant middle finger to the whole fan base.
To even themselves for the last movie, because the ending of the movie is that like the more he kills, the stronger he becomes. He becomes more than a man, you know. Yeah. And the thing at the end of that movie, he kills like 35 townspeople.
Yes,
meaning that now he should be like the final boss. Like he's now powered up to like his stats are.
We would call him Super Saiyan Killer at this point.
Yeah, he's Super Shredder now. You know,
he's Super Shredder. Yeah,
But in this movie, he's a feeble old man that can't stand up. Which is what he probably should have
eating rats in a sewer.
Yeah, and at the end of the second movie, they purposely set it up for the great showdown of he kills Laurie Strode's daughter.
Yeah,
and in this movie, she just doesn't care. She doesn't care.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
don't worry about it.
It's like, what are you doing?
and I'm just, I literally, I'm just like, are you? Like Lauren was pissed off because she actually is a Halloween fan. Yeah. And I mean, she already was pretty beaten down because of the first and second one. You know, the second one, we watched that one when it came to Peacock, and we weren't paying to go watch the third one in theaters either. And you know, we sat down and watching this and we're just like, what the fuck is this? and afterwards, we were like, you know, if they didn't call this Halloween, it'd actually be a pretty good movie. But that's the problem with franchises is you have certain expectations that have to be met. And you can't go in and fuck around with that and expect everyone to be okay.
Yeah.
You just can't. Yeah.
Well, leave it to the up-and-comer, original idea people to save us this year.
Because there are a lot of them.
I have like a top 5, I guess.
Give me your top 5.
Even though this one I was a little disappointed in, but I think it's because he made one of my favorite films of all time that I think I undeservingly put Jordan Peele on a pedestal. I would say number 5 would be Nope.
I really like Nope. I really did. I saw it in theaters. I went in not knowing exactly what I was going to be watching. I hadn't watched any of the trailers, and I hadn't done that in a long time. You know, and I think it's very rare for people to go in to a movie nowadays and not have any exposure to it.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, that was really good.
Let's see what else I have. X and Pearl, I guess I'll include them both together. And I can't wait for the third movie. It's completely out of context storytelling.
Yeah, for me, I liked X, but I loved Pearl.
Yeah,
like you and I saw Pearl in the Warner Theater during the Erie Horror Fest, and like I was like, man, I don't know who the hell this filmmaker is, but they stuck the fucking landing on it. Like it was, I love the stylized nature of it. I love the character study in it. The moments of terror were pitch perfect. And the best part is like they made these movies back to fucking back.
Yeah.
You know,
they're like, hey, let's stick around. We'll just make another one while we're here.
That's exactly it. They were like, well, we're at the farmhouse. I guess we should go do something, right? Like, let's go make a movie. And the thing is like with X, I didn't hate X, but I didn't love it as much as Pearl.
Fair. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think I preferred Pearl as well because I think that, like you said, like they just went balls to the wall with Pearl.
Yeah, they just dove headfirst into the crazy.
And I think that for people who are cinephiles, I think that they probably appreciate these movies even more because both of these movies are odes to certain types of cinema. Like the first one, I really felt was like the grimy 70s slasher movie, and then like the second movie, Pearl, was more of like an homage to Technicolor, and that birth of that type of cinema and everything of that nature. So really, yeah, if you are a film fan, then you would, I think, more than just somebody that just goes to the movies, because who doesn't, I think you would love these movies even more.
Definitely.
Then I would say gotta give a mention here to Barbarian.
Okay, so Barbarian was one that I actually was slightly disappointed by.
Oh, okay. So Black Phone with me, Barbarian with you. Okay.
Yeah. Now here's the thing. Barbarian, I liked the usurping of expectations in this one. Mm-hmm. So if you haven't seen Barbarian before, the trailer for it quite literally sets it up. So like what's his face, the creepy clown guy from It, I forget his name, but you get the idea that he's the killer, right? That he's going to be killing people because he's the creepy clown guy from It. Excuse me,
man. So Brian, I'm old. When you said the creepy clown from It, I'm like, Tim Curry wasn't. No,
Skarsgård.
Yeah,
Skarsgård. Yeah, one of the Skarsgårds, the young one. I don't have IMDb up, so I can't look at it.
Alexander, I think.
Yeah, there you go. So like you get the idea that he's going to be the killer, and the trailer sets it up for that. But instead what we get is this really deep, creepy fucking thing that doesn't have anything to do with him, and it flips it on its head. And somehow Justin Long ends up in it in I'd say one of his funniest and detestable characters he's played.
Yeah.
But I didn't hate it. I just was like, the ending, I was like, okay. Like, it was a good watch, and I was like, I liked it, but I don't know if I'm gonna watch it again. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think that this movie did a hell of a lot better job of portraying that, like, men are not trustworthy and you should be trepidatious of bad men, way better than the movie Men did. So
here's the thing. I haven't seen Men, so I can't say, but what you're talking about, I will say that like the main character in this has no reason to trust any man at all in this movie, outside of maybe the one homeless guy who's like, you shouldn't be in that fucking house. Like that's the thing. And it's one of those things that after you watch this movie, you probably never will want to stay in an Airbnb ever again.
Yeah. I called this movie the band on the run of movies here, because like if anybody's aware of that song by Wings, it's like basically 3 songs in one. And this is 3 different movies.
It really is. Yeah. That's a good way of putting it. Cool. What else you got?
And lastly here, I was in last week. If you listen to last week's episode, if you haven't, go listen to it. Just follow it, support the show, everyone. Is The Menu. I made my top 10 list. Yeah, I loved it.
We got to talk about this movie. Okay. So I saw this movie advertised and I didn't think much of it. And I immediately thought, I'm like, oh, this is going to be stupid. And I don't know why I thought it was going to be stupid. It just didn't scream to me a horror movie. And then when I went and saw Nope, I saw the trailer for it. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, all right, what are they going to do? Are they going to like hunt people and turn them into food? Are they going to do? No, not at all. This movie is able to strike a balance between humor, horror, and drama all in one.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen a movie do that in a long time. Where it knows when to be funny and it knows when to be terrifying, and it also knows when to weave in elements of drama.
Yeah.
John, what do you think?
But yeah, and I on just to grow on that, or to add to that, like it's brilliant satire. It's not overly subtle satire, but it's brilliant satire on the bourgeoisie. The people who who think that they're high end, but they don't appreciate anything because they if I go out to like a high end steak dinner like restaurant, it's like once a year because I don't have the kind of money to go out to that all the time. If I was rich and I went out to one 2 or 3 times a week, I wouldn't even really appreciate the food. And these are all not just that, but these are just detestable people for any number of reasons, from large to small, who just can suck the joy out of somebody who does something for them because, when you put your heart and soul into something for somebody that just doesn't care and they're the only ones that can afford it, that's soul crushing.
Yeah. And then on I think there is a catharsis to seeing rich motherfuckers get their one-upsmanship, right? Like we like to see that. At least most people that I know like to see that, especially in current times, So this movie really does it. Just imagine all the horrible people you see on the news, who are literally society's vampires, if you will, all gathered in one room and just getting their shit handed to them, because that's literally what this movie does. My favorite, I don't want to spoil this movie because it really is good. And if you have HBO Max, watch this movie because it's really good. But I think my absolute favorite might be Nicholas Hoult when he gets his chance to be in the kitchen. So this character, you first think that he's a nice guy. He's the main character. He's taken our main lead.
Anya Taylor-Joy.
Yes. Anya Taylor-Joy for this awesome dinner. He's a foodie to the nth degree. Like, he's one of these people who takes pictures of his food. And don't get me wrong, I've done that too. My wife has done that too. But like, he'll take pictures of his food and then on top of that, obsess over everything. This is like the same guy that who watches every episode of Kitchen Nightmares. Okay. That's who this is. Okay. And thinks that he is a amateur chef, but really hasn't made shit. And one of the best parts of this movie is when the main character played by Ralph Fiennes, who's like the antagonist in the film, he's the lead chef. He finally says to Nicholas Hoult, it's like, okay, I want you to make me a dish. Here is your kitchen. We have all the ingredients you need. Make your dish. And he puts him on the spot. And he makes literal shit. Like, he literally makes a shit food. And it's
he makes he picks lamb too, which is one of the hardest meats to cook correctly. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know that because I'm not a food asshole, but like, well, see, the thing is, I am like, I felt triggered by this movie and it made me kind of think to myself, like, I value myself like one of those like wannabe amateur chefs. And the thing is, I was like, oh, maybe I am kind of a douche.
Well, like I like to cook like anybody, but I would never presume to be that way. And I think it wasn't even necessarily that he was a giant foodie. It was the fact that because of his such technocratic nature to approaching food, it takes like all the love out of it. And I think that's why like Ralph Fiennes hated his fucking guts and had to shove his face into it during that scene. But it is so good. I mean, that's one out of like a billion scenes in this movie that just like you'll be salivating. Not only over the food, but over the fact that it's just a really good fucking movie.
And it's a little bit of a mystery too. So
it is.
Like, if you like that kind of thing, like I'm not talking like Poirot or Sherlock Holmes kind of mystery, but like there is some questions that you're going to ask yourself throughout this movie that get revealed organically over time. So I would definitely recommend checking that out.
Good picks, really good picks. All right, couple that I had here that we didn't mention yet. It goes without saying that this one was a surprise for me, but I'd watched it in a run up to going to Erie Horror Fest because I knew we were going to be interviewing the Addams Family. But Hellbender,
that's right. We should give a shout out to Hellbender.
Man, still considered in most. I think on Rue Morgue it was considered one of the top films of 2022, released today. But Hellbender. Holy shit. If you want a coming of age story wrapped in a terrifying film that includes, I'd say, what would you call them? Like demon witches?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
kind
fair.
of.
Yeah.
I mean, they're their own mythos. Like that's the thing is when we talked with John Adams and Toby Poser, they said they kind of created their own mythos for it. But man, gory as all hell. I mean, gory in some places, but then the drama between the mother and daughter character really just amps it up. And as it dives more and more into the mythos and you start to see kind of what's going on, it's really good, really creepy on Shudder. So definitely check that one out. But yeah, I loved Hellbender. What about you, John?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It was it's always scary when we have to interview people, if they have like really crappy work or something, but this was good. So this was a very easy interview to do because both of us liked the movie very, and justifiably so. It was very well done.
Yeah. And what was funny about it was when we talked to them, they had said that they had planned for a much larger movie. Like that was one of the things. That's why I'm saying I'm going back to the driving factor in all these is just that the pandemic kind of threw their plans up in the air. And it's like, well, what do you do? So like they took advantage of the fact that everything was in isolation, that people were shelter in place, and they had to kind of make do with what they had, and they made a movie that you have really, in my mind, three characters: the mother, the daughter, and then the locations.
Mm-hmm.
As these really core things. But yeah, Hellbender was a good one that I love this year. On top of that, another Shudder watch here. The movie Sissy. Did you see it?
No.
All right. So this is an interesting one. And I kind of did this, I'd say probably, 2 months ago where I just was on Shudder. I was like, I'm going to take a chance, because every once in a while you're on Shudder or any streaming service for that matter. And you see something, you're just like, I don't know if I want to watch this or not. But I took a chance on this one, and I think it was on a weekend. And Sissy really is very terrifying. It's a terrifying film about a girl who was bullied growing up, who grows up to be kind of a self-help guru on social media. And like she's one of these people who kind of you've seen these people. They kind of like come up with their own like 10 steps to enriching yourself or some shit like that.
Yeah.
And what happens is Sissy kind of reconnects with one of her friends from her childhood who she secretly had a crush on, and she invites Sissy to her I would say, what would you call it? Wedding. No, I'm literally blanking on names today. Party
a rehearsal dinner engagement.
No. It's like the guys have the bachelorette party.
Bachelorette.
I'm going to take that one back for a minute. So she reconnects with her friend that she had a crush on, and she invites her to her bachelorette party, which is going to be at, of course, and this has to be the case, at the bully's house who bullied her when she was a kid, because they're all friends. That's how it works. Yeah. So what happens is basically Sissy loses her shit when she's confronted by her bully that still hates her guts, because we get a little bit that Sissy at one time like nearly killed this bully when she was a kid and still has the scars from it. So like she's a little sore about that. And basically Sissy goes on a murder rampage because she loses her shit when confronted by that. She loses her shit when her friends who are also at the bachelorette party basically call her out on her self-help guru bullshit, and it just causes her to lose her mind, and she just starts killing him. It's a bloody film. Like, it's really bloody, and the main actress who plays Sissy does a really good job. Like, I was really surprised by it. I think it's either Australian or New Zealand film, but it's really, really good. John, you should check it out.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you first started describing, I'm like, this sounds like Dexter season 5, kind of.
Yeah, a little bit. The other one I watched that I really liked, and Lauren liked it too, was The Watcher, or Watcher. It's called not the Watcher, but Watcher. It's on Shudder. This is about an actress who is living, I believe, in Germany, and she notices she's living with her husband who's working in there, and she notices across the in the apartment across the way from her that this creepy guy is just watching her. And it's a creepy atmospheric film. It's definitely got some blood to it and some gore, but it's one of these movies that the atmosphere definitely kind of builds into it. John, did you end up watching it?
No, I actually just Googled it now because I was like, oh, there's another one I haven't seen.
Yeah. Here's the thing. It has character actor. You'll know who this person is. Bern Gorman. He plays the Watcher. If you might not know that name, but you've seen his face.
Oh, yep. Yeah, I'm looking at his.
You've seen his face. So he plays the Watcher, and he's fucking terrifying. Like literally terrifying. It's a slow build film that ramps up, I'd say, about towards the middle to the end. So there's not a whole lot that happens. It's a lot of like just moments where Julia, who's played by Mika Monroe, is looking out the window and seeing this guy. So it's not a slash a minute type movie, but it is definitely one that I personally really loved and was really good.
Sweet.
There was one other one that I think, yeah. Which I don't know if you saw this one. This one was one that was great up until the ending. And it's not on my list. And it's because I just thought of it. But did you watch Resurrection?
No.
Oh,
I didn't
okay.
think of that for a second, but no, I did not.
Okay, so this movie, and this is my last on my list because it was great up until the ending. Okay, so this movie is directed by Andrew Siemens and stars Rebecca Hall and Tim Roth, which right there, Tim Roth's an amazing actor and Rebecca Hall's an amazing actress, and them both in a movie, you get this drama about a character who was in an abusive relationship at one point, played by Rebecca Hall, and she encounters her abuser, played by Tim Roth. And there's this back and forth thing where you get the idea that Tim Roth swallowed Rebecca Hall's baby.
Oh,
yeah,
he just ate a baby,
and the baby's still alive in his belly.
Oh. Okay, so this movie's a little out there. I see.
Well, here's the funny thing about it. So the whole time you're watching it, like Lauren and I saw it, and we're just like, "This is really good. I wonder what the fuck's gonna happen." And we're like, "Is he fucking with her? Like, is he like saying that he did this and it's gonna drive her crazy or something?" No. As you would imagine, and I'm sorry if this is gonna spoil it for people, but he really did swallow a baby. and that's the ending. She cuts the stomach. There's a fucking baby there. And alive.
Okay, this sounds crazy enough that I'm in.
You will need to watch it because I couldn't believe it. I seriously could not believe it. I'm watching this, I'm like, if I was writing this, all right, I would not have that happen, or I would have that happen and then cut to a scene where she's in a mental institution or in jail because clearly there's no baby there. But literally, she's holding the baby. Now, some people have said that the last scene, which is basically her holding the baby and her daughter comes in, it's like, oh, hey, everything's great, is an illusion. It's a dream. But there's nothing to indicate that.
So it's kind of open-ended.
Yeah, and that's why I say, like, this movie, Resurrection, is about 90% good, and then that last 10% really, like, what the fuck. So I know I'm probably getting some people who are like, you don't know what you're talking about. It's like, no, I do. It was 90% good. I'm not taking that away from it. But that 10% is, what the fuck, man? Like,
it's amazing how you can have the first 5% of a movie can suck, and then if you hook them with the ending, you're good. But if it's the last 5% of the movie that sucks,
it's
like
true,
you ruin
though.
everything. Yeah,
but it's true, because it's one of those things that, I don't know if I'd watch it again because of that ending. Like, I can forgive some lackluster parts in the middle of the movie, because that's one in screenwriting. They always tell you that writing the middle part is the hardest part, and it's usually also the weakest part of a screenplay. The beginning up to the first 20 pages and then the end are always easy, because you know how the story is going to begin and end. But it's how do you get from point A to point B? That's the problem. But yeah, I was like, okay, there's a real baby in his belly.
Stomach acids be damned.
We're not going to talk about how that happened and anything like that. No, we're not going to do that. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just not cerebral enough to look beyond the baby in the belly and see that that's clearly a dream. But I had to mention that one because it was good up until that last 5-10 minutes. But
something that I wouldn't consider this a horror movie, but I want to say it's more of in the vein of Halloween season than it is even horror. But I can't believe I forgot this one. I just wanted to mention this towards the end on my worst movies of the year list. The Munsters.
Oh,
I think I just realized that I'm like, that comes in number 3 on my worst movies of the year list. So, dear listeners, I apologize that I forgot The Munsters.
Fuck that movie.
Yeah.
Fuck Rob Zombie. Why?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't. This is going to turn into like a 2-hour long episode if we go any further into the Munsters. But all I got to say is, you had one job. I mean, it's very simple. You just make the series into a movie. No one gives a shit about how Herman Munster became Herman Munster. No one gives a shit about Lily Munster meeting Herman Munster. No one cares. They care about the fish out of water story of monsters living in suburbia. That's it. That's all you had to do. You gave us that in about the last 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So that's the inverse of what I just went over with Resurrection. Okay. It was about 90% shit and 10% eh.
So yeah, to update from last week, the Munsters did come in number 3 on my worst movies of the year. Morbius and Jurassic World Dominion, in my opinion, are still worse than the Munsters.
I guess Morbius is worse because it actually had a theatrical run.
Yeah, it's more than time.
Here's the thing: I will still say, Munsters had the worst trailer of 2022.
Yeah. Oh,
worst trailer. That trailer set that movie up for failure, and that's on Universal for that one. Well, we talked a lot about horror today. A lot of good stuff. A lot of good stuff. I really feel that 2022 will be a landmark year. When we look back on horror movies, we'll go like, man, that was a really good year for horror movies, and we might be comparing a lot of years to this year. What do you think, John?
Yeah, I'm curious to see what 2023 has to offer here, because I know we both have seen Megan.
Yes,
I know last time we talked, I hadn't seen.
I did a little mini review while you were watching it. So that's up on our.
It's certainly not catalog. That's certainly not a great movie, but it was entertaining. So it's yeah. We'll I'm curious to see what 2023 has to offer us.
They've already said they've greenlit a sequel to it.
You know what? The way they have like M3 GAN. I wonder if it's going to be M4 GAN. Or
of course it will. Yeah, because the marketing people got to be clever with the names. You got to have a number or just remove the word the.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, definitely good stuff. So, John, where can they find you at on the internet?
All the usual ones you'd expect from somebody in their 30s. So no like TikTok or any of the cool ones, but you can find me on like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and do follow my YouTube channel, JDubs Video Nasties.
Anything new?
Right now, I'm working on a Mrs. Doubtfire episode that I'm looking to have out here before the end of the month. So I have a lot of questions about Daniel's decision making in that movie. So.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good one. You could find me at Brian Coddington on Twitter. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Psycho Show. We are also on TikTok. I know that neither of us really does the social media thing on TikTok, but our podcast does.
Yeah.
And that is at Cinema Psycho Show. So if you want to jump on the TikToks and see what we got cooking, you can check that out. If you have a favorite movie or question, or maybe if you really liked the movie Resurrection, or you really liked the Munsters, shout out your hate to us. That's cool. I'm all down for that. I'm down for getting negative feedback as well as positive. I've already been told that I don't know my movies, so okay. But yeah, contact us at cinemapsychoshow.com. And be sure to follow us wherever you listen to audio, and we will see you next time.
Oh, God, I think my grandpa drowned in the tub.